My name is Brendan Donaghey. I represent B. Donaghey and Sons External Insulation and also Passive House NI, a new company we've started in the north. Our main focus is external wall insulation. I don't know if many of you have seen it yet, but I have a wee video here that explains it a wee bit and how the process is done. A lot of our work is based on retrofitting older houses. We've been members of the SEI Better Energy Home Scheme since its inception nearly. We were the 11th contractor in the country to start external wall insulation, so we have a fair grasp of it by this stage. The company that we deal with are PW Thermal Building Solutions. They're the licensee for the system here in Ireland. They've brought it over from a company in Scotland who were doing it for the last 25-30 years. They've got projects done in the northwest of Scotland, lighthouses, so it was one of the main things that drew me to their system as opposed to other systems. There are German systems and French, American systems, Polish systems out there, but the one that was based and has a track record in Scotland was the one that was a similar climate to our own and it seemed to work over there, so that's the one that I chose to go with. We're happy enough with them now, and I'll just show you a wee bit of this video. I'll explain a wee bit easier maybe the concept of it. At the start now they'll put on a 50mm plinth or baseboard which is made of high density insulation on the bottom, and then they'll fit a starter track which is made of aluminium. That's the starter track there. Starter track acts as your first layer, first base for your first boards. It also stops any vermin, mice or rats or anything burrowing up through the system. So then you can start, and all the pipework on a retrofit, all your fixtures and fittings are taken off and all your pipework extended. So there's a wee bit of work on that end of it, like just run that through. On this system here, it's a dried ice system. Initially, all the boards are adhesively stuck, and then there's one fixing per sheet plugged through the insulation board. These are the type of fixings. This is for an insulation board we fitted in Donegal town. Sorry, Stranraer Hospital. The insulation there was over 10 inches thick, so the fixings are fairly long with that. Like, but the fixings we'll get for the 100mm will be 150mm long, and every fixing is about 50mm drilled into the block or the substrate there. Once this has been plugged, the guys will start base coating it or plastering it. Once the base coat's on, there's a reinforcing fibre mesh that's bedded into it as well. On that bit of house there now, that was an estate in Dublin, and because the estate had red brick on the bottom of it, the council wouldn't let them change the design of the facade on one particular house, so the bottom of that house had to be pumped. There was a cavity there anyway, so they pumped the bottom of that house just to comply with building regs. Every time we'll go out and do a survey on the house as well, and generally with the grant work there'll be a building energy rating finished on completion of the house. We'll take off all your bits and pieces off the outside of the building, your satellite dishes, alarms, soil pipes, drain pipes, before we can fit the insulation. And when we're done and dusted, everything is that has been extended is all refitted again and new. So you'll have new down pipes usually on, but we'll extend out the satellite dishes and extend out the alarms and stuff like that. On the windows end of it, as he's doing here, we'll cut off the nose of the windowsill, and then we'll bring a board up flush with the bottom of the window, and we'll reinstate with a new aluminium windowsill, an oversill, and that's plugged into the wall with metal plugs as well. And that's him putting on his baseboard again at the start. And that's just the base track going on again. I say every sheet is adhesively stuck, and there's a plug put them as well. On the dash systems there, once the base coat is put on, we'll put an extra 5 plugs per sheet through the system as well to hold it in place, because there's a fair bit of weight on a dash system as opposed to maybe the lightweight systems acrylic. All the reveals as well on a retrofit are taken off and reinstated with it's usually 20mm insulation on the reveals there, just to stop the cold bridge at that area. If we didn't do that, you'd end up with black spots where the inside wall would condensate because there'd be a lower temperature there than the rest of the house. You'd end up with mold then growing in your reveals. We'll put a scratch coat on it as well after we've got it base coated, and then a top coat, then our carrier coat, which is put on, and then we'll just throw the stones or the aggregates, same as traditional dashing or plaster. And that's just a reflection of some of the houses we've done through the country there. Some of them is further down the country as well. Again, once it's done and dusted, you wouldn't know that it's even been insulated. It just looks like a traditional house again. But in some cases there, you'll see that there is a step out of the 4 inches where the extra insulation has been put on. So you can see the difference on a thermal imaging camera of the before and after shots there, where it's losing heat straight through the walls, and after it's been insulated, you can see he just needs to sort out his windows. But again, they say on the other end of it, on our passive house NI site, we'll have windows, we have heat recovery units, we have air tightness tapes and membranes, and we have the insulation as well. So we'll do every aspect of home building, renovations or anything at all like that, and we'll do it to like a passive house detail. We mightn't have to go for the certification, which costs that extra bit of money, but if we can get all the detailing right, like for instance on a current building regulations is 7 air changes per metre squared per hour, whereas in passive house building it's 0.6. So what that really means is that in this room the air is changed 7 times in an hour. So you have to heat that every hour or every time that the air has gone out of this room. You have to heat it again. The air has gone out of this room. You have to heat it again. So you're constantly heating the place. Whereas if you've got it more airtight on a passive house, it's 0.6 air changes. So once you've got the air heated here, it stays here. You haven't got all the leakages that you would normally have maybe in older style houses, or even current building regs will only say 7 air changes per metre squared per hour. On the passive end of it as well, so we have a window range there where I haven't got it in this shot now, but we can do a passive house window with the casement style windows as well. So it's just another string to the bow for the passive house end of it. We're using another guy here. He's Michael Kavanagh. We're using his pellet burners there at the minute for our heat source. Again, with passive house, you need a very small heat source because your house is that well insulated and it's airtight, and it's got the ventilation element of it with the heat recovery, that you don't need a big massive oil burner or heat source that you normally associate with traditional houses. I don't know if maybe anybody any questions on the external insulation or planning or bits and pieces like that. If you want to put, yeah.
What about when you go up under the soffit, the soffit have to be renewed outwards?
Most traditional houses at the minute now, you still have 8 or 9 inches in the soffit. You'll stick on 4 inches, you'll still have 4 inches left. But in cases there, somebody's asked me today that they have no soffit, just a fascia and a gutter. But we can do 2 things. You can extend out the roof a bit there with timber. Some cases we'll bring off slates off the back of the house and put them in the front just to make it look all the same. Or the other option is we can put a flashing underneath the last slate and extend out where your fascia is. We can extend out the fascia with 4x2 timbers, just enough to give you a covering for your insulation. And it's still sealed underneath. You haven't to put on any slits or anything. You just put a flashing underneath your last slits and turn it into the gutter.
Well, I would mean extending the timbers out as well.
No, you don't have to. No, your last slit's still in place. We're just putting a flashing underneath the last slit. and that comes down and bends into the gutter, and we've screwed into the gutter there. You don't have to. You can go down the route of extending out the rafters, but it's usually a lot more expensive than not. You know, if we can get the flashing in there and it looks okay, that's grand.
And the windows are not touched.
No, unless you want to change the windows. A lot of people do change windows when we are working on the house. What we do in that case is we'll move the windows forward. So then, that when we put on our insulation, that our insulation is flush with the window frame. And you still have the 4-inch reveal around the outside, so it just looks the same as every other house. You have a wee bit of minor plastering works on the inside again, where you've moved the window out. In that case area too, you can sometimes change the sill. You mightn't have to go for the aluminium sill. We also have a passive house sill there. It's a solid high density insulation. There's sort of resin on it, and there's no thermal bridge through that either, like, you know. Anybody else? Much difference. Well, for a start, you can see exactly what's on the outside. It's been all, you know, for all best intents and purposes, it might intend to pump every bit of it. But if there's been dirt or a bit of timber that's dropped down the cavity where it's been built, if it doesn't get falling down, it won't fall down. And there's no way of telling when you're pumping it in whether it's gone down or not. At least with our system, like, you can physically see that the whole thing's been done on the outside. You can do away with all your, see around your reveals and all. Everything can be thermally bridged there. We can cut off the existing reveals. And say on a new build now, we don't build with a cavity at all. We just build it solid and clad the outside with whatever depth you want. Like, you know, at the minute now we're doing a project in the Isle of Doe, the famine village. It's a new 120-seater hall and exhibition area, tea rooms and cafe down there. And they've built it with a 215 block on its flat. On the outside we put 150mm external insulation, and then you just render the inside the sand, cement and skim, and the sand and cement and skim on the inside will give you your air tightness. Down at damp course level we'll use either a quinlite block or a foam glass block, and then on the outside you've got the external insulation, and on the inside you've got your insulation under your floor screed. So that whole detail there is thermally bridged as well. And the same thing down there again. We went round the inside of the window openings with insulation before they were fitted, and then fit the window into the insulation. So there's no cold bridges going around that at all. And you've got a neoprene tape seal between the insulation and the window frame. Then there's a frame seal bead on it as well with a gasket on it. So it's fairly airtight even before it's rendered on the inside. And on the inside we'll have an air tightness tape, then a sand, cement and skim finish. So we haven't got the figures for it yet, but we're hoping for the 0.6 or thereabouts for air tightness testing when we're done, like, you know. Anybody else any questions there? Yeah. You can try that. We've done it in schools, we've done it on amusement arcades. You can pass it. That's as hard, unless you can batter slitters off that down the country. Like, there's no big. There's different systems. There's different reinforcing measures you can use. But again, if you go in with the dashes, you'll have no issue at all. You can fire your bike against it and everything else. Boy asked me one time, he says, "What would you drive your car into it?" I said, "Well, you want to try change your driving habits?" Like, but it hadn't the thing said about 2 months, and he rang me up. He says, "Remember we were talking about driving the car?" And I says, "What did you do?" He says, "It wasn't me. It was his brother-in-law, his sister-in-law, somebody, must have been brother-in-law. It was a tractor, and he reversed into it. And, you know, the two levers at the back of the tractor. He'd reversed in and punctured 2 holes in the insulation with the tractor. Like, but again, what we did there was, say your hole was that size or whatever, smaller, you just tape off that area, repair the insulation and base coat it again, and just, his was a smooth finish. We just sprayed over the finish again and took off our tapes, and you wouldn't notice it was done. It was done, but you wouldn't notice it was done. Like, oh, you can get it repaired. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Oh, you have to put a. Yeah, but the smooth one would be called the class of lightweight finish, where these are the more heavyweight finishes because there's more bite on them. Like, you know, like areas of high impact, like around schools and stuff, we would always propose to go with something like the wet dash or the dry dash or the K rent we're doing in the hospital up there again at the minute now. and it's a K-rain finishes on it, which is a hard finish as well. Like, but again, it's up to personal choice as well for people. Like, but you're not going to post up with a ball. Any other questions here? I say we stand down there and say we've got the Passive House one, we've got the B. Donaghey and Sons one. If you want anything either on installation or on Passive House detailing or products, you can more welcome to come down and give us a wee shout. All right, thank you.